Parents Union. I am John Monteleone, a proud son of Lynette and Joseph Monteleone, and just honored father of Rochelle and Antonia Monteleone. I want to introduce my co-host here. We'll start with Tim. Tim, what's going on, man?
Hey, thanks, John. Good to see you guys again. My favorite day of the week is when I get to talk to other dads. Yep, I'm Tim Langen from the National Parents Union, proud son of Patty and Jimmy Langen, and proud father of Matthew, Miles, David, Dylan, and Max. Thanks for good to see you guys.
Yeah, good seeing you too. Jose, how's it going?
Hey, good morning. My name is Jose Manuel Villarreal. Of course, my parents are the late Jose Macario and Maria Irene, and I am proud father of Nathan Macario and Noah Manuel, here from sunny San Diego. Nice to have you all, man.
Good seeing you, Jose. And last but not least, Michael Scott.
Hey, good morning, gents. Good to rise up with you this afternoon now. I am the proud son of Vassie and Marshila Scott, and honored to be and blessed and fortunate to be the father of Addison Grayson and the husband of Megan. Good afternoon.
Yeah, nice. It's nice seeing you, fellas. And I speak for all of us when I say to everybody, thank you for joining us. And today's topic is going to be when we become dads, how's the dynamic of our relationships with our friends change? And how do they adapt and how do we make new friends throughout the journey of being a father? So Jose, we'll start with you. Like when you became a father, like what happened to the relationships with your friends? Like how did the bro code work out and all those childhood friends that you grew up with and ran the streets with? How'd that change when you had your firstborn?
Friends, how many of us have them? Friends, ones that we can depend on. Hey, that's Houdini, right? So
Right.
I remember my father, man, he told me in Spanish, no hay amigos. He would tell me that over and over again. I was a kid, and I used to be very upset at him when he would say that. And I understood what he was trying to tell me, which was you'll always have family first and friends next. But in terms of when I had children, yeah, and even when I got married, I mean, your attention went somewhere else, just like when you were in high school, right? And your friend ended up with a girlfriend and he no longer hung out with you. It's very similar, at least for me, in my experience, where you put all your attention to your relationships, your children, and those that are friends that you can depend on won't be offended that they haven't heard from you in a while and you can text them. I mean, I have a brother, a friend of mine in Colorado, Jesse. Every time I talk to him, it's like we spoke yesterday. I haven't talked to him in years. My buddy Andrew and Blythe, same thing. I mean, but that's how I feel connected. And then you have your network of people that you're in. But if I was going to tell you right now, when's the last time I went out to a club? Shoot, it was like 15, 20 years ago, man. I mean, I may have gone to a bachelor party maybe like 20 years ago. Last time I played poker, never. I mean, at least for me, I'm all in, man, with these boys and my family and my mother living with me. But you got the text, you got the way to communicate. But I know who I can depend on. I know who I can give a holler to if I need something, and they know that they can depend on me. But I'm that Scorpio, man, so I'm all in until I'm not.
Okay, man.
Good. Mike, how about you? Being a new father, like how's things changed?
Yeah, a new seasoned father, by the way. I think last episode you called me young, and I'm still living on that, John. But,
you see how I stayed away from that time, huh?
Yeah. So my circle was always tight. I had a small circle even before fatherhood. So for me, that circle is still my circle because those are the ones that I can depend on. And the bubble has grown a little bit thanks to this network opportunity as well. So I am blessed to have y'all once a week, and then throughout the week because we also send some texts to each other when life's joys or struggles present themselves, and I'm appreciative of that. But additionally, like I feel as though my friendship with my father has increased since I became a father. Like that's always been my ace, but it was very clear. My dad made it very clear. I'm your father, and friendship developed later in life. But now, to me, it's like a different space now, so to me, that's the biggest gain and the biggest change. It's just watching him in this different role as a grandfather. Like yesterday, I just watched him for like an hour, just interact and play, and the things that I would have got my butt tapped for that my kids were doing. He was so patient, and then we were able to talk about that. So and why, and and he said, he sees me doing things, so now he's doing that. So to me, like friendship, right? You model, you learn from your friends, and you have this dialogue. So for me personally, like that's been the biggest evolution since my children have been born.
Yeah. Tim, how about you? Let's hear from you, man.
Yeah, I'm just like Jose, man. Like, the thing I can liken kids to is like and this sounds selfish, I think, to people who don't have kids, and it's not saying I'm better than them, but like you either have kids or you don't, and it's two different worlds. And I can I call it like a psychic change in my head the second I had kids. Because I remember working in an office in Harvard Square in my like mid-20s, early 30s, and you'd go out after work and you'd be seeing bands play at night, and you didn't really have to be at bed by 8 o'clock. And I see these other people like rushing to the train and rushing to get home and being like living a responsible life, like where they actually went to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, and be like, what's up with them, or having concerns. And then I became a parent, and I mean, if I want to analyze it, like you're taking care of another human being. You're feeding them, you're clothing them, you have these responsibilities, and sometimes you're just goddamn tired. And all of a sudden, a switch went off in my head where I'm like, oh, that's why that guy is like saving his money and not bringing his lunch to work. And that's why I always use the term, like I always think of my dad, and I think of like, that's why my dad was crabby all the time. The guy just needed a nap, for Christ's sakes. He wasn't a jerk. And so it was tough when I became a parent to relate to my other friends who were single, who didn't have kids yet, or who were just casual acquaintances, because I was all in on my kids all the time. So I didn't really want to go out that night, or I didn't want to talk about what they wanted to talk about anymore, because it didn't really mean anything to me anymore. So my relationships definitely changed. I have trouble, I didn't keep the connection with all of my old friends, at least not like a tight connection. Like Jose said, I text them sometimes, but it's definitely changed. I find my relationships now are, and people told me this before I had kids, and I thought they were crazy, other parents, like the parents I see at the park, the parents I see at my kids' Little League games, because I just have more in common with them now.
Yeah. So, fellas, for myself, my journey was a little bit different. And Tim, you're right. It is two different worlds. Yeah. And as you guys know, my oldest daughter, Rochelle, is 26. But when I met her mom and married her mom, Rochelle was about 7 or 8. So I kind of went into more like a traditional family. And, here I was 23 years old, and I was already a father. And I had to mature, because early on I was trying to navigate those two different worlds, because all of my friends, and like Jose and Mike, my friends were very close knit. My father always said, like, the more people know about you, the more they can hurt you. So he always raised us like that. So I could count my close friends on my hand, but they're still my close friends for today, till today. But they weren't fathers at the time. So I was trying to navigate that world, but then also be a father. And to be honest with you, fellas, I wasn't doing a good job at either one. And so it wasn't until we had Antonia, and that was about the time, that natural progression where all of my friends were now having kids too. And it made life a little bit easier, because, gone were the days of going out on the weekends, Friday, Saturday night. And we still did things together, but now we did them with our kids. But early going, it was rough. And I mean, it was pretty tough to navigate both of those worlds. And, here we are. I mean, my youngest is 19, and it's a little different dynamic, because, my daughter has grown up with all of my friends' kids. And so now we just kind of get together, and, we don't miss a beat. But early on, it was tough, and I didn't do a good job on it. And I have a lot of regrets, in that sense, being young and trying to be a father, but also trying to, be a 23-year-old at the same time. Yeah.
I used to beat myself up a lot about that, because I really valued my friends, and I I would look and be like, oh my God, these guys texted me 10 days ago, you know, or I'd blow them off. Like we would have plans on a Friday night and I'd have to cancel at the last minute just because I was tired, you know. And the thing that helped me feel better was like hearing other parents do the same exact thing. You know, everyone was sucking just as bad as I was at being a friend.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you know, a good thing about it is that, you know, a lot of my friends now, like their kids are like, they come over, like they're old enough to like just drive over and visit. You know, one of my friend's son is 21, so he's of age. He comes by, has a beer with me, you know, in the backyard. Like, so it's been good in that sense to kind of watch them grow, and now they are who I was. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. But I have to do say, like, and I'll ask this to, you know, after I make this statement, I'll ask this to the three of you. You know, there are a couple friends that don't have kids that I you know, they're more like acquaintances now. And once upon a time, they were really good friends, but it's, again, it goes back to that. It's two different worlds, and they really don't understand the world until they're in it. And it's no fault to themselves. They're just living their best life, you know, single bachelor. But Jose, I mean, you have friends that still continue that don't have kids that, you know, just out there that you lost contact with?
You know what? I'm going to say yes, and they're outside my bubble. You know, we talked about that bubble theory before of who is in, you know, you can name it a circle, a bubble. But yeah, I think so. I hate to say I don't remember their names right now, top of my head, but I'm sure if I thought about it, they probably have to live in their life. And it's just one of those things for me, man, is when they're outside my bubble, I tend to forget those things because I'm off doing something else. But you know, John, you brought up an interesting question that I was really curious about. You know, at what point do our kids become our friends? Where you drink together, where you, I mean, I will never, as a famous comedian, Chris Tucker said, ever have my child drink with me. Ain't gonna happen, man. My dad was an alcoholic. You know, he struggled with it. I saw him struggle with it when I was a little boy. And I tell you right now, I have never had a drink in front of my mother. And that she lives with me, so I've had nothing. And if she's ever away, I might sneak one in, but I just don't, man. I think because it was so, and it wasn't as traumatic as it may sound, but with my sons, I'll be like, yo, you gotta drink that outside of me. You ain't gonna drink it in front of me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll loosen up later. I don't know. But I'm just really curious. You made that comment about, you know, the other children coming up or now of your friends. It just made me kind of have this little epiphany of, I don't think I'd ever do that with my sons, at least at this point in my life. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't, you know, picture it. But, you know, like my daughter, she's 26. I remember when she was, I don't know, maybe about 4 years ago. It was Thanksgiving, and, you know, we opened up a bottle of wine, and she poured herself a glass. And, you know, I have to admit, like, you know, at first I was like, whoa, you know, like there she is. But, you know, there she was having a glass of wine, you know, during Thanksgiving. And then, like, you know, the young man that came over, you know, he lives right around the block. So, you know, he walks over, you know, we have a beer, you know, we talk, you know, I mentor him, you know, we talk about life, you know, how's college, things like that. And then he walks home. And it's weird because I didn't have that relationship with my father because my father was an alcoholic. And by the time that I was old enough to drink, my dad had given it up completely. So I have never had a drink with my father because of that. And, you know, it is a weird dynamic. But, you know, I posed the question back to you guys. Tim, like, what's your thoughts, you know?
Well, you know, it's funny you guys are talking about recovery here, and I've been in recovery now for about 21 years, you know, and I think it's great, you know, and I talk to my boys about that. So I'm very conscious with my sons, especially my oldest one. And I'll say to him, I'll say, you know what, man, I made lots of mistakes when I was younger. Here's what happened to me. And you got to be aware of that, you know, how you treat people. And I just want him to be aware of that. So when he's my age, if he goes through a lot of the same problems I went through, you know, he is someone he can turn to. but I do ride that line with him as far as like the buddy aspect, and then being a father. And I tell him, like, man, I'm going to be your best buddy, but I'm going to call you out on your crap too. So you don't do the same stuff I did. And it's not because I don't love you. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because, you know, I didn't get that tough love growing up. You know, I got, let Tim do what he wants to do. And I wish I always say to my son, Max, I wish someone had told me this when I was your age. Instead, I had to learn it when I was older. So yeah, that's where I am with that.
Yeah. Mike, what's your thoughts?
So my dad and I guess that's my theme right now. And you know, going to Jose's point, like there was a clear line early on, like father is father, father and mentor, right? As I've gotten older and entered into adulthood, and I think what really started to change things for me, and I was probably at this point, how old was I when I was a principal at GJW? 30 something, 32, whatever it may have been. And he came in to begin to mentor students in my building. And we had different discussions. The flip began to switch, still father, but then friend came in and there's an understanding. So then it was like, all right, you know, finally into the basement. You know, I got to go into the basement and, you know, where the grown folks hang, more or less. And, you know, so then, yeah, we do share, you know, something, a beverage or two around that point. And we integrate and we talk. But it's more like that. It's more like just a, you know, breaking bread is a common thing to do. You know, great decisions are made while we break bread. And so, you know, to me, that's just an accompaniment of that. So it's really just, you know, that's one piece. And then coming back to the question you had posed, John, around friends that don't have children. So like, right, I'm new at this, and a lot of my friends are around my age. Case in point, John, their kids are older, they've lived the journey. So there's an understanding from them, like, yeah, he's going to be doing something a little bit different right now. And that's okay. So I think because I've waited so long, that maturation, it's a little different story, right? So I'm not feeling the angst per se all the time to kick it. Like, it's just not in my DNA period right now, too much. But yeah, there's a time every now and then where I'm like, man, I want to go to the, watch the ball game or something like that. And you know, as a partnership between my wife and I, we work those things out. You know, we try to figure out ways of making that still happen. So she's great at, you know, sometimes she'll just take the kids and go to her parents' house, and then I have some time there. Or like yesterday, I tried to do the same, and I took the kids to my parents' house, and she got to ride the bike for miles upon miles upon miles upon miles. So I think, you know, all these things come with, I feel fortunate because we're seasoned and experienced. Like, there's just a different level of understanding, and we're not racing the same race that I might have been racing when I was 23, 24, 25, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a learning curve. I know that, you know, in one sense, I envy you, Mike, because, you know, at 40, there's certain things that we just don't have any desire to do anymore, right? You know, and those desires that were there when you're 20 are not there when you're 40. And so when you're having kids at that age, you kind of have all that out of your system. And that's the part I envy, because I wish that I would have had some of that out of my system when Rochelle was younger. I know I would have been a better father. I mean, you know, and at the time, you know, we talk about our friends and, you know, how they change when we become dads. A lot of my friends didn't understand that, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of my friends, right or wrong, and, you know, this was their opinion, they really didn't see Rochelle as mine, you know. So they were like, well, you don't have to be home. Like, her mom is taking care of her, you know, she'll be there. And, you know, sometimes I fell into that trap, and sometimes I was like, nah, that's just not the right thing to do. But I think as we get older, you know, we mature more, we see things differently, and we respect, you know, people's decisions. So I know there's a lot of things that happen with you, Mike. Oh, we lost Jose. As his way is he's telling us he's done with this conversation.
Them out.
But yeah, so Tim, like, as your kids, you know, being let's get back to the point that Jose brought up, because I look at this with my daughter, Antonia, who's 19, so she's
Yeah.
not old enough to drink yet, but she's
Yeah.
also in college, so
Yeah.
I also know that
What
it's
goes on,
taking
yeah.
place. Yeah, so you know, when the time comes when your kids get to that age, you know, what's the discussion that you're going to have with them?
You know what? And that's where it comes down to. It's that blurred line between father and friend, you know, and I'm so glad I can bring this experience to my kids. Because I'll be honest with you, like I think one of my goals this week, or at least, well, when I get back from vacation, is to ask my dad is going to be like, what was it like for you? I've never asked my dad what it was like for him growing up, or what it was like being a dad. And I love that I can tell, like, share this experience with my son. It's going to be like, hey, you know, you're kind of like your dad. I mean, you just saw him running around. He's a mini me. You know, some people think this is genetic. Some people don't, but I'm going to say, you know what, buddy, you're going to experiment. You're going to do what you want to do. But please be careful. You know, this stuff runs in our family. And just talk to him with love. And so that he knows, like, if he ever has any problems, he can come to me and talk about it, that he doesn't have to hide anything, that he doesn't have to be scared. And I think knowing that telling him that I've been through it really helps him with that.
Yeah, Jose, so we lost you there for the second. And the question was, when your kids start getting to the age where they can drink, you know, what's that conversation that you have with them? What if they do want to have a beer with dear old dad?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna get to a point. I think I'm gonna be like where Mike's at, right? Where there's gonna be that transition between dad and mentor. And I'm good with having a drink or two, right? And I don't see a problem as they get older, you know, maybe in their 30s and 40s, and we're all grown men.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's interesting, man. I guess hopefully we're still doing the show when we're at that point, and we can talk about it. But I can't even imagine, you know, even doing that. But I would say that if they're going through hard times in their life and they're trying to get my advice, and yeah, it's I'm good with that, you know, especially tequila, man. You know, I got to honor my roots. So I ain't afraid of tapping into that. And I'm talking about the high quality stuff, not the 7-Eleven stuff. You know, I wouldn't introduce them to Boone's or anything like that. You know, that's way back in the day.
Waste. That's a waste.
You know.
It's a waste of calories there, man. But no, you bring up such a huge point, though. Like, so, yeah, when you were talking about, you know, if they're going through something, like yesterday, you know, I had my kids at my parents, and you know, I went over there for a couple reasons. One, it's nothing like being around my mom. I'm a mama's boy, not gonna hide it, can't hide it, right? So when the stress is getting there's nothing like just being in her presence. She doesn't have to say a word. We can just sit in silence.
Yeah.
So there was one piece there, and then obviously getting her to be able to, you know, run around with the kids is just another joy, right? So I needed joy. I went over there intentionally, selfishly seeking joy and peace. And then, you know, my dad came in off the golf course, and, you know, he could just, I got my laptop out. I'm on a one Zoom meet ended. I was then going on to another one, checking emails from the phone and doing something else on the iPad. And he sees me doing all these things. And he just, you know, put a beer right next to me. You know, and that was just his way of saying, I see you, son. You know, take it in stride. And then afterwards, when I was done, he just played with the kids. We didn't have to talk about all the stress that was going on. Just that simple gesture alone. And it could have been anything, you know, it could have been, you know, but for us right now, you know, that's what he thought, you know, I needed one little, we were just, you know, when I got done working, it was there. So I think things can, like you said, will evolve. And there's just a respectful way of whatever that niche is, to be able to say, I got you, son. You know, that's something I always want to be able to do. I got you, son. I got your back, daughter. You know, Grace and Addison, I got you. And to be there. And if it's breaking bread, and let's say because, you know, Grayson might inherit the gene that I have to cook, and we just get together in the kitchen and do that, so be it. Whatever it may be, just making sure that we have that connection is going to be my goal way down the line. And I know it goes quick. I can't see what you guys are talking about right now. But you know, it is something that I do look forward to.
So I got a funny story, and I might have shared this with you guys, maybe off camera, about Boone's Farm. So we're gonna take a trip down memory lane, but I'm gonna bring it up to present, and we're gonna have a real talk about the subject. So it was my senior year. Had a friend of mine living with me. His parents relocated to Sarasota. He wanted to finish out his senior year, and so he stayed with me and my parents to finish out his senior year. So the weekend comes, my parents go out of town. We decide to get a couple bottles of Boone's Farm, you know, have a little house party, you know, together. So being a naive, smart aleck kid, you know, you think you know everything. I picked up the one bag of trash, put the Boone's Farm in there, put the bag back down. that was my covert way of hiding that we had a little party that weekend. So my dad takes out the trash on Sunday evenings because they pick up on Monday. And he comes back into the house and he walks up to me and Tony, my friend of mine staying with me, and he opens up his wallet. He gives Tony a $20 bill, and then he gives me a $20 bill. And we're both looking at him like, "No, Pops, what's this? You know, what's the $40 for?" And he says to us, it says, "Hey, listen, if you idiots are gonna drink, don't kill your liver. Go buy some good shit." so that was his message there. So that was.
Oh my gosh.
But fellas, I grapple with that now because Antonia is 19. She's in college.
Yeah.
I know she's drinking. And I have these conversations with her when she goes to a friend's house or if she comes over here. I don't search her. I don't pat her down. I don't, you know, wand any of her friends or go through their bags. But I've been grappling with this discussion to have with her. Like, if you're gonna drink, be responsible, stay at the house. Mm-hmm. But I don't also want to condone underage drinking, but I want to be a realist and know that it happens. So two things here, like one, give me some advice. And two, how are you guys going to approach that when the day comes and you guys have teenagers that are experimenting with alcohol?
I think
shaking down everything, John.
What's that?
I'm shaking down everything. I don't know about you. Yeah. You bring it in my house, it's mine. I'm shaking everything.
I think the same way, man. The same way you're doing it, you know, because I grapple with this too, and it's like, am I gonna drive myself crazy for 4 years, worrying about what the kids are doing in college? I mean, I'm not. I can't do it. You know, I mean, I can't stay up at night 4 years wondering, is my kid going to be a party animal? Stuff's going to happen. You know, I can't hear every conversation. I can't know everything they're going to do. All I can do is, like you said, stay safe. Don't drive drunk. Keep reminding them, you know what, you're underage. Be responsible. And it sounds corny, but I mean, just one of those messages you got to drive home over and over and over again. I mean, that's all I can do, short of dorming with them. And they're not going to want that.
Yeah. Jose, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, that's a sticky wicket, man. I don't, because if you get too aggressive, they're going to really hide it from you.
Right.
If you get too loose, then you're really trying to say, go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Right.
So, because everybody's going to do it, man. I don't care if you're, you know, I've met the most straight, arrow, you know, God-fearing people in the world. And at a certain point in their life, man, they get into it. With drugs, alcohol, it's just what it is. It's life. It hits you. I've rarely met a person who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s and said, I've never touched it. Rarely. It's just in front of us. So you know, for the dads out there listening to this, it's going to sound cliche. There's no magic potion to this, man. You just got to talk to your kids.
Yep. And
you got to tell them your stories. And that's different than what I've been coached in the past from, you know, counselors and therapists that I know and folks that I've listened to. where they say, "Nah, you can't tell them your stories." I said, "Well, you kind of should, but it's at the right time."
Yep.
Because that way it can make some sense to them. They ain't gonna make sense when they're 10 years old, but we're in the midst of going somewhere when they're 19, 20, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I bring it up is because my daughter came over a couple weekends ago. She brought some friends, and I slept like a rock that night, but my girlfriend didn't. And she said, "John, they were up all night. And matter of fact, at like 3 in the morning, that they went somewhere and came back with food,
Oh.
And it just got me thinking, like, I know Antonia, I trust her, and I think it comes down to trust, right? Like you have to trust that she knows she's doing the right thing. But I'm also thinking, like, if they started drinking when I went to bed and they leave, like, God forbid something happens to them, you know what I mean? And they were under my watch, my responsibility, like no way, shape, or form. And so I haven't had that conversation with her yet. So, but yeah, I mean, I know I need to, but I really have to lay it out to her. Like, look, and I'm almost to the point where, and I'm asking this as I'm saying this to you guys, like, if you're going to come, once you're in, you're in. There is no leaving. There is no, like, you better hope Grubhub, delivers at 3 in the morning. There's no like midnight runs to Taco Bell. Like that just can't happen, because I'm just afraid for, and not so much them, but that's peak hour for people coming home from the bars. Like, so yeah, that's where I'm at. And I've been grappling with this, like how I'm going to have this conversation. But like you said, Jose, not be the heavy, because I don't want her, A, to not feel comfortable in her own house, and B, start sneaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, everything you say, man, is in a calm tone. You know what I mean? It's patient. It's understanding. I mean, I think you could say anything to me like that, and I'd be like, okay, John, just setting boundaries. It's all about setting boundaries. And I just don't, like, I know I'm gonna have to set boundaries with my kids now when they're 9 and 7. I'm probably gonna have to set boundaries with them when they're in their mid-20s. That's life. But I think you're on the right path, man.
Yeah.
You put safety at the forefront, John, in your conversation. Like, I care about you. I need you to be safe. And then also, I think you also hit on something like, too, you have a responsibility and sharing that, like, yeah, let's keep it real. You're underage. And the fact that, we have this dynamic, don't abuse it. I just think, and you've built in equity. I know you as a father, you've built in equity through all these years where that conversation going to 10 point will be received. Have it. I mean, I'm with you on having it. And I'm struggling when I hear you all talk about this, because I'm like, and when I jokingly said, yeah, I'm shaking it all down. You bring it in the house, it's up, and a part of that was real. But then I started thinking about, like, even with a 3-year-old and 2-year-old, we put things in moderation. So for instance, the milkshake, you don't get the whole dang on thing in the milkshake. You get this little bit, right? And we talk about why. And so I'm just thinking, can that, potentially carry over and as things get older? I know that's just an example, but, those are, I think, some of the foundational things that we're just trying to talk about, responsible habits, right? So you don't get to wake up and have a sucker, even though the kid wants sucker when she first wakes up. She does. I know you're having apples, and now they're trained to think apple when I first wake up. So I don't know. I'm just giving my perspective of where I am and trying to project out to that conversation when Addison is 19. So if we can keep having those conversations now as a young person, and maybe it is in that equity I talked about, just adding in. So then when you have to make a withdrawal, you can do that.
I'm going to ask for a favor out there to those that watch us. I think we've gone from 10,000 to 4,000 views. We probably switched up the format here. So let me say this, though. We are Neanderthals as men. Let me just say that. We are, like Jerry Seinfeld said, we're like Jeeps. We are Neanderthals. So if you happen to be as a woman married to a man, and I'm going to speak to just the one set situation. There's a lot of situations. You got to do us a favor. You got to help us create opportunities for us to talk to our children. help us do it, because we don't know how to do it. We just don't. I mean, it's rare a man knows how to do that. Rare. But you got to help us out. I know we're grown. I know we might be educated. I know we can drive, but you just got to create those opportunities for us. And what I mean by that is create moments for us to be together, put us together. We need the help, because remember, this is generational about men and how they've been shaped and formed in this country and across the world. And then you add on culture, classism, subculture, trauma, so
we might have to go another 45 minutes, Jose.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You gotta help us out, because it's rare an evolved man exists, man. Look, man, you can dog me out all you want, but it's real. It's true. And I'm not talking to you three. I'm talking about those that are out there, those trolls. But it's true and honest, And if it's basketball, it's basketball. If it's golf, it's golf. If it's just shoving them in a room, not forcing it though. You got to orchestrate it. Yeah. Anyway, we need some help.
That's a great idea, Jose. I got to tell you, because what comes to mind, like, since I've been with Kerry and we've merged our families there, is like, if there's one thing she does as a woman, stereotypical or not, is like, there's sometimes where I'm like the goddamn general, man. And I don't like raising my voice. I hate that stuff. What she helps me to do is like take that pause and be like, hey, like, she softens me up a lot with my voice, so I can actually have that time. And then I might be like, why don't you go outside right now and like throw catch with David? Why don't you like do this thing?
Yes.
She does the thing where she's like, why don't you get your kids on the bed for 15 minutes at a time and just to talk to them? And again, I don't know if that's something only a woman can do for a man, but I think that's really great. She gives me that space.
So you chose wisely. I'm just gonna throw that out there, and I that's a theme that I think I've said as advice. Jose often asks us to, what advice would you give to a right now, based upon this conversation? It goes back to choose your partners wisely. For instance, my lovely bride, she just walked by, and at times she will poke fun at me intentionally, like, quit taking yourself so seriously. And that kind of was what her point was, walking around. So whatever your partner offsets you. So whatever you need, they should be able to help give you. If I need space to talk to my children, then and I don't have it, then my partner can help me do that. Or if I'm too crowding, then my partner can create space where there's distance, because sometimes we need distance too, right? Because if you're just beating a message, sometimes you got to take away from that message in order to give it time to resonate and heal. So I think that choice that we make with those that we hopefully choose, and sometimes not choose to make children with is important though. And then who we choose after that, because we know there's a lot of blended families, and things don't always go as we may intentionally plan, but then even that choice. So now, does that person have the skills to integrate themselves in? So kudos to you, Tim, for choosing wisely, man.
Okay. Well, then I got you guys. You guys soften me up once in a while too. So.
And Tim, by the way, that was I purposely threw that plug out there too, so that after the meeting you could get one of those.
I need it.
That Michael Scott guy, man, I kind of like him. So.
It's a lot coming from you. Hashtag be more like Michael Scott.
But you know what, Mike? That comment brings us full circle. So today's segment was about what happens to the dynamic of our friendships once we become dads. I think your advice, Mike, as in choosing your partner, make sure you choose wisely, because the one thing that I have with my girlfriend is she is my best friend. Like, I love kicking it with her. And so, like, I don't feel that need to be with my friends every day because she's fun to be with. And so, I have chosen wisely. So I think that plays a role into it as well. Like, when you have kids, like, you have them with your best friend, and then that's all you need, that circle. So, any closing words, Jose, before we wrap up the show? You always have some good nuggets from us.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, my dad used to say it's called a dicho, right? An idiom. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you hang with and I'll tell you who you are.
Absolutely. Tim, how about you?
Ditto, man. You know what? My mind's going to vacation, and I just want to bring some of this softness over the next week, to let go of work, make some memories over the next 7 days. I'll be sending you guys some pictures, and no, just thanks for softening me up today. I appreciate it, guys.
Michael Scott, closing words.
So, my dad told me a long, long time ago, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. So kind of piggyback off of Jose's point, you know, I appreciate you 3 for being a part of my 5 weekly. So even there, choose wisely. You know, we rise up together.
Well, fellas, I thank you. I thank you for the words of advice with Antonia. I thank you for today's conversation. I can't think of a better way to spend an hour on my Saturday than with you fellas. And thank you to the National Parents Union for hosting this Dad to Dad show. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys. Good job, guys.